If you think back to when you were growing up, chances are, or at least my hope would be, that at some point over your childhood or maybe your teen years, there was an adult who took a special interest in you. Now, obviously that's what parents are supposed to do, but I'm not talking about within your home. I'm talking about a neighbor or a friend or an uncle or a teacher or a coach who saw you as more than just a relative or a student or somebody in the neighborhood, but who actually knew you, who knew your story, who cared about you, who asked you questions, who encouraged you, who listened to you in tough times and was there to cheer you on in good times. I mean, I remember I had one or two of those adults in my life. One of them for me was my youth group leader, Pete. And I didn't go to youth group because I loved youth group. I went to youth group because I loved Pete. And Pete just loved kids, and he used to tell us these incredible stories, and he knew our story, and we would play sports together, and he was hugely influential in my life. In fact, I still have a Bible that he gave me when I was 13 years old, and it's something I'm going to hang on to as long as I live. Do you remember somebody like that in your life? Well, now think about your kids. And the question we want to ask this time is, do they have anyone like that in their lives? And some of us probably, as we tell our stories, would say, I never really had anybody like that. Or I had 2 people or 3 people. Those kinds of relationships sometimes happen accidentally. Here's what I'd love for us to consider together. What if instead of having those relationships happen accidentally, we intentionally pursued them strategically? What if instead of just, hey, maybe that'll happen for our daughter, maybe that'll happen for our son, what if we actually decided to pursue strategic relationships for our kids? In fact, I would suggest that was God's design from the beginning. He didn't intend us, as influential as we are as parents, to parent alone. He imagined a much wider circle. I saw this happen in my life in a very real way. I heard about a way to mentor your kids that was so exciting for me and my wife, we decided to do it for both of our sons. And it's so simple, anybody can do it. All we did was the year that each of my sons turned 13, we sat down at the beginning of the year and I said to my kids, I would love for you to think about 5 men, because they're both boys, 5 men in our relational circle who could serve as a mentor for you this year. And so we identified 5 men. And then I sent an email to each of the men just asking them, hey, my son's turning 13 this year. Would you consider spending 1 day with them over the course of the calendar year? During that day, I would just love for you to teach them 1 spiritual truth and 1 life truth. Whatever you do with them is fine. You can take them to work, you can do something recreational, you can take them on a trip, whatever you want to do, just spend a day with them. And then at the end of it all, we're going to gather all the mentors together at my place for dinner, and we'll have a dinner, and we're going to talk about what we learned and pray for my son. And both times I did this with both Jordan and Sam, all the men we approached instantly said yes. They didn't understand it because they hadn't really been involved in that before, but they instantly said yes. It was a powerful, powerful experience. The impact that it had was not only on my sons, who had an other adult speaking into their lives, but it was almost an equally powerful experience for the men. In fact, when we did it with Jordan for the first time, as each man was leaving that night, he came over and said, I wish somebody had done this for me when I was 13. You see, somehow we all intuitively understand that a wider circle of relationships is huge in our lives and in the lives of our sons. There are a number of different ways that you can pursue strategic relationships for your child. One way is to do it privately or personally, the way I described. Another way to do it is to actually get involved in a local church. And some of you are involved in a local church. In fact, you're in a group right now. And just like that group is adding value to your life, a small group can add incredible value to the lives of your children. In that small group, they've got a wider circle of influence in their peers, but they'll also have an adult who's speaking into their lives, saying the same kinds of things a loving parent would say. I got really excited about the impact that the mentoring process had on my sons. And I'm not only a dad, I'm also a senior pastor. I got so excited about it, we actually recalibrated our entire children's ministry to move from a classroom model to a group-based model so that every child now has a group of friends running in the same direction and has another adult who knows them personally and can say the same kinds of things that a loving parent would say. I think it's important for every child to have strategic relationships in their lives, and we want to encourage you as a parent to consider pursuing those strategic relationships even before they need them, so that they're there when they need them. In fact, when we set it up at our church, we even have small groups for the very youngest of children. When a child comes into our nursery environment, they don't have a babysitter, they've got a small group leader. Now, I'm not sure that they have very meaningful conversations at the age of 1 or 2 about life and God and the whole deal, but here's what they do have. They have a group leader who knows their name. They have a group leader who prays for them, who knows them personally, and who cares about them passionately. And we want to set up those relationships before a child needs them so that they're there when a child needs them. Because by the time they reach the middle school years, they're already preconditioned to having another adult in their lives. And when they stop talking to you as a mom and dad, they've got somebody else who would say exactly the same kind of thing that you would say, already positioned in their lives. I want you to think together tonight about how, as a community, as a group, as a wider circle, we can pursue strategic relationships for our children.